And we are back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for the final matches in Group A in the Women's Euros. This is my preview and predictions for match day 3. And if you want to see my predictions for today's matches, including that absolutely massive game for the Lionesses against the Netherlands this evening, you can do so by clicking the link at the top of your screen right now. But as always, before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video. If you enjoy all of my previews and predictions, share it with a friend to get as many people involved as possible. Subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you miss out on any of the other predictions we have got throughout the remainder of this tournament and as we look ahead to a brand new season. And speaking of that brand new season, if you want to gain access to additional perks such as predictions for leagues and competitions that I don't cover on video, you can do so by clicking the join button at the bottom of your screen right now to become a member. I covered all of the Champions League matches taking place yesterday over on the community page yesterday morning. As for today though, this is the state of play. We're on 10 out of 14 after getting both predictions correct last night. Still no correct scores for this Women's Euros, which is incredibly frustrating, but we've got close on so many occasions. But a final thing to note before we get into it, as you can see on your screen right now, we've actually got the table up for Group A. It's something I always do for the final group stage matches, so you can actually see all the possible connotations before we actually get into these previews and predictions. But like I always say, when it comes to final group stage matches, just don't put bets on these matches. There are so many unknown variables, especially in a group like this, where you see Norway playing Iceland, where one team is already through and one team is already out, and then you have Finland taking on Switzerland, where both of these sides really have to win. Obviously, Switzerland need to draw. So there are so many unknown variables, certainly when it comes to things like team selection, because of the status of these teams going into these matches. It makes them so hard to call. So my advice would always be, on final group stage matches, just avoid them. It's not worth the hassle of getting it wrong. But we're going to try our best to get it right here and now. So let's start with Norway taking on Iceland, because I've already mentioned this is the match between the side that's already through and the side that's already out. Iceland obviously already out because Switzerland or Finland will get points, meaning they cannot get more than 3. Norway already through because one of Switzerland and Finland will drop points, meaning that they cannot be caught by both of them. So great position for Norway to be in. Obviously Iceland are already out, and that's why it then becomes so hard to predict things like team selection, because you don't know if Norway are going to rest players ahead of the knockout stages. You don't know if Iceland are going to change their entire team, given the fact that they're already out, so they might as well give the other players that they've picked an opportunity to get a run out in a major competition. So you just really don't know where this one is going to go. To make things even harder when it comes to those sort of things, neither team has any injuries or any suspensions coming into this, which, to be honest, is quite impressive for Iceland, given the fact they've had something like 10 yellow cards in the first 2 matches so far, and the only person to get suspended is the person who got sent off on the opening day, and they're now back for this game. All the other players and the manager who got booked have all managed to make it to match day 3 for Iceland. But like I say, there is always the chance that they could rotate their team. Same with Norway. They're guaranteed to be in the knockout stages. And to be honest, they only actually need a point to secure top spot in this group. So there is definitely a chance that they could rotate players out of their starting lineup in the knowledge that they can still back themselves to get that point. To make things even harder still, when these two sides last met, it was earlier on this year. They played each other in the Nations League, literally in April and in May, and both games ended in a draw. So, I hate predictions like this. I really do hate predictions like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off the assumption that both sides do play relatively strong sides and they want to end the group in style. Norway obviously want to wrap up top spot. Iceland obviously don't want to finish on 0 points. But let's look at the facts from the opening 2 games. Norway have scored 2 goals in both games and have won them both. Iceland have failed to score in this tournament so far. So I'm going to go for Norway and I'm going to go for 2-0. I think that's a pretty fair assumption for this, given how this tournament's gone so far. But like I say it with so much caution because you just don't know what either team is going to do in their starting lineups. As for the other game, which is obviously the massively important game, we have Finland taking on Switzerland. And as you can see, when it comes to the league table, there is barely anything to split between these two sides. Switzerland are 1 goal ahead of Finland, and that is purely because Switzerland beat Iceland 2-0, whereas Finland only beat Iceland 1-0. Both sides beat Norway 2-1. So, what that means is that Switzerland have the advantage when it comes to the actual result of this match. Switzerland can afford to draw this game, and they are guaranteed to finish in second place. Finland have to win. Doesn't matter what they win by, but as long as they get the win, they are through. But the Swiss have another little thing that is in their advantage as well, and that is if you look to the bottom right directly below me, you will see that this tournament is being played in Switzerland. They do have that home field advantage, and I think that has told so far in this tournament. They played very, very well against Norway on the opening day and were unlucky to end up losing that match. They were then outstanding against Iceland and beat them fairly comfortably in the end, albeit it was 2-0. Finland, though, again, you've got to give them credit. They have played well as well. They also got their goal against Norway. They also beat Iceland. But if you actually look at the little bit finer details in terms of possession, actual chances created, Switzerland just edge it. And I mean that, they just edge it. There is very, very little in it. But the Swiss have, across the two games, just been that little bit better. And that's where I think that home field advantage is coming into play. So, in my head, I do have the Swiss as favourites coming into this match. Furthermore, yet again, no fresh injuries or suspensions for either side coming into this. Obviously, you can expect both sides to play their strongest lineup because both sides will need the best possible result from this match to progress. So, it makes it a little bit easier to pick that team rather than that opening fixture. But, to make things even harder, once again, there is no prior head-to-head between these sides. These two sides do not play against each other. They've managed to avoid each other across all these qualifications, all these nations leagues, all these previous tournaments where we've had so much head-to-head record between the other sides we've covered across this series. These two sides have not met before, and there's only 3 places between them in the world rankings as well. So little to split between them. But like I said, I do think home field advantage, they've been slightly better than Finland over the course of this tournament so far, and the fact that they can afford to get a draw, whereas Finland have to go for the win, I do think it just favours Switzerland when it comes to this match. A draw would not surprise me in the slightest. To be honest, a Finland win wouldn't surprise me too much. I think they've played well enough to get a result here. But I have to go with what my gut instinct says, and that is that Switzerland are going to do enough to get the result. Like I say, wouldn't surprise me if it's a draw, but I am going to go for the Switzerland win, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to the host nation to put them in to the knockout stages. As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Who is going to be progressing from Group A? And obviously, come on England tonight against the Netherlands. Save the tournament, get yourselves back on track, and let's see if we can defend that Women's European Championships. Thank you very much for watching as always. I'll be back tomorrow morning with my previews and predictions for the final matches in Group B. I'll see you there.